Hello everyone, welcome to my review of Thunderbolts with an asterisk behind it. I was actually very excited about this movie when it was first announced. I actually did not care about it, but like the marketing behind it has actually made me have hope, unlike, you know, a bunch of other Marvel movies where Marvel has kind of been going downhill in that sense, and really the only good movies in the past couple of years have been, as people would call it, cameo movies, as in the multiverse movies, Spider-Man and Deadpool, and I mean, we've had others, you know, like Shang-Chi, but Marvel's kind of been on this downward spiral. But the way that they marketed this movie really made me have faith. And I will say right now that faith was most certainly earned. This movie was actually really fun to watch. So let's get into it, shall we? So this movie is basically about a bunch of losers who have to, well, you know, Marvel movie, they gotta save the world. However, unlike the comparison movie that everyone is going to make to this one, not when they watch it, but when they learn about the concept of this movie, which is obviously, you know, a bunch of, like, you know, I guess you could say baddies teaming up. The best comparison is Suicide Squad, but unlike that movie, this movie actually makes sense. And I'm talking about the first Suicide Squad movie, not the James Gunn one. Because the James Gunn one actually works a lot better. But like, the first Suicide Squad movie was basically like, what if Superman kidnapped the president? Who do we need? Yes, we need an insane woman with a hammer and a guy who shoots bullets. That's really gonna teach that Superman a fellow a lesson, isn't it? Like, it's so dumb. This movie does not have that, and I am very happy about that. However, I don't really want to spoil anything about this movie, so let's just go into the characters. They seem like the best ones. So, the main character of this movie is obviously Florence Pugh, who portrays Yelena Belova. I don't know if I pronounced that right. It's been a long time since I've seen Black Widow, and they don't really pronounce her last name. It's just Yelena, or Lena, as Red Guardian calls her. And I like her in this movie. This is the movie where she gets the most amount of development, at least in my opinion. Like, for me, she was basically just a Black Widow ripoff, like Temu version of Black Widow. That's basically what we had back with the Black Widow movie and even in Hawkeye. But this one, it really feels like she's stepping into her own character, and I like that. But yeah, the movie is most certainly about her. She gets most of the scenes in this movie, and I don't really have a problem with it. I actually like the actress a lot, and I like her a lot as well. Next up, we have obviously our senator himself. Well, new senator, I guess. The Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier himself. Sebastian Stan is back once again, and yeah, he does a good job. I mean, he is Bucky, so you already know everything you need to know about Bucky. He is just a continuation of Bucky that we have seen. However, now he is in Congress, and let's be honest here, he doesn't care about any of that stuff. This is a man of action, not a man of like papers and listening to people talk. He likes to just do stuff, and in this movie, he will eventually get to do stuff. However, they never really go into the fact that Bucky became like a member of the United States Congress. The Winter Soldier himself was able to do that. That was already teased in Brave New World, but here it's like, why is there no explanation? It would have been nice. But basically, Bucky wants to stop this woman named Valentina. But we'll get to her later on. But he basically wants to stop her. That is basically his mission in this movie. Next up, we have Wyatt Russell back as John Walker, now also known as U.S. Agent. And yeah, I liked him in the movie. I thought he was very good. However, until like later on in the movie, he kind of is a one-note character. But I'll talk more about that later on. But once he gets that, like, there's like a reveal with him. And once that reveal happens, it's like, oh my god. I'm sorry about that. But overall, I liked him in the movie. He does get some character stuff. And then next up, we have Hannah John Kamen. Look, if I pronounce these names wrong, I apologize. But she portrays Ghost, or Ava Star, I guess. But Ghost in this movie. She is from Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I wouldn't really call her a down point from Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's just that movie had like a bit too much going on. In this movie, Ghost doesn't really do much. As in, like, character-wise. She is in the movie, and when the action happens, she is there, and she looks fantastic while the action is happening because of the whole ghosty powers that she has. They look really cool, especially in that one scene in the trailer where they're all fighting, where we have basically all the Thunderbolts fighting, and then she's just like zipping around, punching people, ghosting around. Very fun. However, character-wise, she doesn't really get anything. However, for me, she is also my third favorite character in this movie. Specifically because of one thing she does early on in the movie, that's made me so happy. I could not believe it. But she made me very happy. So I like that. But character-wise, she is a little bit of a problem. Then next up, we have David Harbour as Red Guardian. And he is a standout in this movie. He's the funniest character in this movie, but he is a standout in this movie. Absolutely. Like, yes, the movie revolves entirely around Yelena, and I don't have a problem with that. But, like, if I think back about this movie, the only thing that I can think about is Thunderbolts. And that is from Red Guardian. Big fan, a very big fan of Red Guardian in this movie. David Harbour absolutely steals the show. And then next up, we have potentially the most important character from the Thunderbolts. We have Taskmaster, who is portrayed by Olga, whatever that last name is. I'm not even gonna pronounce the last name. I apologize, but I can't, okay? I just can't. However, she portrays Taskmaster, and she does a fantastic job in this movie. And also, she actually has my absolute favorite scene of this movie. If I had to name one scene that is my favorite, it is that one. I hated her when I saw Black Widow, because she... First of all, I don't like the fact that they gender swapped Taskmaster. I hate that. But second of all, even with the gender swap that they did, they didn't even have her act like Taskmaster. They literally turned her into Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine. And no one's happy about that, and no one's happy here. However, I will say what they do with her in this movie is very good. I feel like a lot of Taskmaster fans are going to be happy about her. And then finally, for the Thunderbolts characters, I guess, before we get into the, you know, the last one, we have Bob, who is portrayed by Lewis Pullman. And Bob is just a nice guy. He's just a good guy. He's just a guy suffering from a wee bit of depression. Which, by the way, that is a focal point in this movie. The fight against depression. That is the point of this movie. But he does a really good job at portraying Bob. Liked him. And then finally, we have Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, which is apparently very important that you pronounce her last name as De Fontaine. She is the woman who has bought the Avengers building, and also she is kind of like, what if Amanda Waller was just terrible? Because Amanda Waller, she owns the places, but Valentina, she thinks she owns the places, but she does not. I liked her in the movie, however, she is also the weakest part of this movie. And let's get into the weakest part of this movie, and that is too much humor. Because while people say that this movie feels like old MCU, which I kind of agree with, my main thing is this feels like MCU Phase 3. You know, when the humor really started to take over. And every character had to be funny. And that's just true. In this movie, every character has to be funny. And while, you know, for Red Guardian, it really works for me, with Valentina, it didn't really work. She felt more of like a goofy character than anything. And I wasn't really that big of a fan. Like, I like the actress, and the actress does a good job portraying her. It's just, I don't know, I kind of wish she was a little bit more serious. And that is basically the main cast without getting into any spoilers. So overall, yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. Especially Red Guardian, a very big fan of the Russian super soldier. However, the humor is something that kind of holds the movie back, but not by a lot, because I think that towards the end of this movie, it has a lot of heart. However, you might be a little bit confused, so I will give you a little bit of something, not everything, but just a little bit of something. This movie just ends, by the way. It just ends. It's not like an ending. It's just like, we're done. We're done, okay? Here's the final scene. Credits roll. It's very jarring. I don't know why they did it. I get what they were doing, and I liked it, but I can also understand if people did not like that part. So then, now that we are done with the Thunderbolts, I guess now the next job will be to find the new Avengers. But before that, let's get into the final verdict for Thunderbolts. And my final verdict for Thunderbolts is going to be a beautiful 8 out of 10. I was a big fan of this movie. Also, this is actually one of the highlights movies of like the multiverse saga. And it doesn't have any cameos. So it seems like sometimes, but only sometimes, Marvel can actually knock it out of the park with one of their movies. Because I have not really been a fan of their movies in recent years. The main ones that stand out for me, outside of, you know, Deadpool and Spider-Man, are Shang-Chi and this one. That I would say that would potentially be my top 4 of like the multiverse saga. Because afterwards, like, the rest of the movies have kind of just fallen flat for me personally. But I'll get into all of that eventually once I reach phase 4 and 5 the MCU with my reviews. But like I said, this movie is great. If you want to watch a movie, like, look, this movie has some heavy themes. You have to understand that. It actually deals with depression, which I'm actually a big fan of. It doesn't try to make some big political statement like, you know, the last movie. It's just, yo, depression is bad, okay? Done. It's a simple story, but it works. And also the fact that these Thunderbolts are not fighting some, like, Superman villain works also because of the fact that it doesn't really make any sense for them to do that. Because, you know, like, even in Suicide Squad, the first one, it didn't make any sense. So this movie is really good, and I would highly recommend you guys watch this movie. So then, let me know what you guys thought about this movie in the comment section down below. Keep it spoiler-free, don't worry. I got a spoiler talk coming out very soon today, actually, in, I don't know, less than an hour. I have a spoiler talk coming out, and then we can talk about spoilers and all the juicy details about this movie. But let me know what you guys thought in the comment section down below about Thunderbolts. And with that being said, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and if you did, please like button, subscribe if you're new, if not already, turn on notifications. Don't forget to check out my Let's Play channel, link in the description and at the end of the video. And like I said, I'll see you guys in about an hour for the spoiler talk, and tomorrow for another Pokemon episode talk, and also this weekend for another Transformers review. Bye!